Yes, everybody, this was definitely the role Jeremy Renner was born to play. Hello and welcome to my review of The Bourne Legacy, starring Jeremy Renner, Rachel Weisz, and Edward Norton. The Bourne Legacy centers on yet another genetically enhanced super spy named Aaron Cross, played by Jeremy Renner. He's out in the Alaskan wilderness, running from wolves and jumping from mountain to mountain, which makes me wonder where Liam Neeson was, but I digress. After a confidant of his gets killed, Cross finds out that the CIA has decided to wipe out all of these programs that experimented on and created these super agent men. So he travels back to America to find answers and the medication that will keep him alive, which makes him run into this doctor character who he met earlier, played by Rachel Weisz, and the two go on the run together in typical Bourne fashion. I gotta say, this is a very interesting direction for a sequel to go, to completely distance itself from the original characters and storylines, besides having it go on congruently, and try to tell a separate story that gives you a better perspective of the overarching plot points that are going on throughout these films. I've always wanted a franchise to try this. And I have to say, it could have gone either way, but on its own terms, The Bourne Legacy is actually a very fun action film. What really makes this movie work is its lead performance. Jeremy Renner is absolutely fantastic in this movie and manages to separate himself from Matt Damon in a way that makes him seem completely unique. While Damon portrayed Bourne as much more of a stoic character, a little bit more disconnected, Renner comes across with a lot more humanity and a lot more emotion. And I'm not saying Jeremy Renner is better, I'm just saying what makes him stand out. I really like how he just kind of seemed like a normal guy who was thrust into this situation and thrust into these superpowers, and therefore seems to just have a wider emotional range. He gets frustrated, but at the same time has a plan and knows what's going on and has a sense of humor about everything. And I just felt in a way that he was almost more of a dynamic character than Jason Bourne, and I really enjoyed watching him. Not to say that he was in a better movie, but he certainly elevated this movie a great deal more. Also, I thought the supporting performances were very solid. Rachel Weisz plays a very different kind of love interest here. She plays one who kind of goes through what a normal person would go through. When Aaron Cross meets her, he meets her in a freaking shootout. So she's kind of going through post-traumatic stress disorder throughout much of this film, and I thought, especially in the beginning, she played that very convincingly. Edward Norton's also good here. While his role isn't especially meaty, he's pretty much just the guy in the CIA office saying, "Get that guy back here, get the big thing on the monitors, and don't let me down." He's good too, and Albert Finney is also in the movie, and also playing kind of a small role, but very good as well. My only disappointment with the cast is that they bring back David Strathairn and Joan Allen very, very briefly, and so briefly, in fact, that they didn't even need to be in the movie, and if they wanted to bring them back, I just wish that they had brought them back in a way that was more meaningful. Now, despite me being not the biggest fan of his two previous films, Michael Clayton and Duplicity, I have to say Tony Gilroy really stepped up to the plate here and really directed this film well. Not only did he work with the actors well and crafted a really nice little story, but also he really stepped up to the plate in the action sequences, I thought. While some of the editing does get a little choppy and shaky in that typical Bourne fashion, much less than in the previous two films, and there are some action sequences in here that are scaled back from the previous two, but truly have you on the edge of your seat, especially one towards the middle of the film, where a guy's just running through this lab with a gun and shooting innocent people. That's truly intense, especially after the Aurora tragedy, and it's just so spine-chilling and so well-directed and so beautifully tense. Also, the hand-to-hand combat sequences and the car chases are as great as you'd expect out of any Bourne film, and he really stepped up to the plate when it came to those action sequences. I really only have one major problem with this film, and that it just feels a little bit insignificant when taken into the whole overarching series. I kind of wish that they had kind of made it bleed into the Bourne trilogy just a little bit more, or maybe ended it with a hint that Matt Damon was coming back or something, just to make it seem like it had more of a reason to exist within this series. Don't get me wrong, it's a good side story, but at the same time, it just needed that little extra kick of Bourne in there, just to make it feel like it's a true part of the series, but it's not a big deal. Overall, The Bourne Legacy is a solid reintroduction into the series. It scales back the story a little more and takes it back to its roots, and I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. Jeremy Renner does fantastic work in the lead, and while it's definitely not the best Bourne film, it's certainly not the worst either, and I give it 3 stars out of 4. And that's my review of The Bourne Legacy. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can subscribe to my channel, and until next time, I'm Movie Kid Mike.